Welcome back, everyone. So the Coinbase CEO actually responded to Binance and what exactly is going on. If you want more content like this, be sure to smash that like button. But he went live on CNBC and said it's good for the industry to turn a page and make sure they're actually following the law. So yeah, Coinbase stock is not anywhere near its all-time highs, but that's also because crypto is down. So right now, Coinbase is $115. It's slowly recovering also because Binance is taking a huge hit. But what we are seeing right now is just basically Coinbase being at $330 at its all-time peak. It does seem like the markets are improving. So that's a good thing in general. And if you guys want more content like this, be sure to smash that like button because I do think the crypto industry is going to improve and the crypto markets will do better. It does also seem that the actual big exchanges like BlackRock and Vanguard, who have never been in crypto before, will both basically take a market share, but they will improve the market prices in the crypto industry. So that's both a good and bad thing. We're slowly seeing some improvement in the crypto markets, which is absolutely incredible. But what I'm wondering is what will really happen next. But there's definitely a lot of excitement on board for a lot of these key players, especially exchanges taking different stances. And I do think in the next following years, we're gonna have actual exchanges go bankrupt, and we're also gonna have banks go bankrupt. So nobody's gonna be safe, and nobody even knows if we're in recession or not. But overall, this BlackRock and Vanguard entering crypto is actually good because we will finally get the government's approval, which means that crypto is gonna be there long term.
On the horizon that I think Congress can help with there.
And Brian, so the DOJ just held this press conference. They talked about some of the awful, really, use cases for crypto. They talked about terrorist financing, transactions that facilitate child sexual abuse. How is the industry going to move on from that? Really, the dark side of crypto, some of the nefarious use cases at a time when this industry is also gaining legitimacy on Wall Street. There's a lot of hope for an ETF. How is the industry going to move on to become more legitimate, especially in light of what happened today?
Yeah, well, centralized services in cryptocurrency, just like custodians and exchanges, they need to be following the exact same rules that exist in traditional financial services to be looking out for that type of criminal behavior. And one thing I think a lot of people don't realize is that if you look at the best third-party data out there, less than 1% of activity in crypto is for illicit purposes like those that you just described. By the way, the US dollar cash is about 4% used for illicit activity. So crypto is certainly not unique in that a small percentage of bad actors try to use it. That's why we at Coinbase, for instance, have really strong transaction monitoring programs, and we've invested a lot in these programs around KYC and AML. But the centralized actors need to follow those rules. I think we saw that Binance in this case was not maybe following those rules as well as they should have. But the decentralized aspects of crypto are probably going to be regulated differently. They're protocols, they're self-custodial wallets. And so the industry needs to figure out how it can apply those rules with regulatory clarity, not just in the US, but these offshore unregulated exchanges as well. And then we also need to make sure we preserve the innovation potential in the decentralized aspects of crypto to balance that.
So how do regulators prevent some of this from happening again in the future? It sounds a lot like just banking regulation, things like KYC and AML that you think of really applying to some of the more traditional financial institutions. The industry has pushed back on that and said we want different regulation. Is that possible at a time when Congress might have some different priorities, especially with an election coming up next year?
Yeah, well, I think some areas of the law are already quite clear around OFAC and KYC and AML, like we saw. And I don't think the industry has been pushing that against that. In fact, quite the opposite. The companies that I engage with and in the U.S. that are based here are all leaning into that. We've been doing that for many, many years. Now, there are areas of the law today that are still not clear in crypto. For instance, which of these assets are commodities and securities. And that's where we've seen some of this draft legislation going through Congress. In the absence of that regulatory clarity, we're also availing ourselves of the court to go get case law created that can create that clarity as well. So look, the first and best choice would be to have regulators come together and publish clear guidance. We haven't had that happen yet, so we're unfortunately having to rely on the courts and now Congress to pass some of that. Congress does have many priorities, as you put it. But I know that, for instance, Patrick McHenry and those have made this crypto legislation a priority. And you never know exactly how and when things may become law in the United States, but we're going to keep trying that. And I feel confident that the U.S. is going to get it right eventually.
And so, Brian, Coinbase has not been immune from its own legal troubles. Can you give us any sort of update on the legal battle with the SEC? The SEC has sued Coinbase for what it says is an unregistered broker. Does any of the action today impact the way you think about your own legal battle with U.S. regulators?
Yeah, well, obviously it's important for people to remember that these two things are apples and oranges. Ours is a civil case over some technical issues about what is a commodity and security. And as I mentioned, we're availing ourselves of the court here to go create that regulatory clarity for the industry. And so almost regardless of the outcome, at least we'll finally start to have some clarity from the court. The Binance case here was a criminal matter, obviously, with much different facts and circumstances and a huge dollar amount that is quite a bit different. But look, I think the important thing for people to remember here is that 52 million Americans have used crypto now, 400 million people globally, roughly. This technology is not going anywhere. More Americans have used, like 5 times as many Americans have used this technology as have an electric vehicle, for instance. And so we have a real opportunity with this technology to update the financial system, make it faster, less expensive for people, more efficient, more fair, more global.
So yeah, after following this video and watching everything, I do fully agree with them. Binance has been everywhere and there wasn't exactly rules on regulating crypto, but now Binance has been regulated a lot by different countries. And now with the government saying an approval, a lot of retail investors can actually buy the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Before, it was much harder to actually buy crypto. It was a much bigger problem. I'm not joking around. A lot of people were concerned, and that's the big problem about it. But it does seem like in the future, we are going to be seeing crypto going up, and that's the best thing that I saw so far. Crypto with FTX just isn't going to be around anymore, and everyone knows that. Which would you rather buy? On a sketchy exchange, I'm not talking about Binance, but I'm talking about through a third party, buying your cryptocurrencies, or would you rather buy on a legitimate Vanguard and BlackRock that has been around for years? Many people talk about decentralization, but nobody talks about the regulation, about government approvals, and everything that needs to happen about crypto. Yeah, crypto will lose its value because the reason crypto exists is to go against, being regulated, but it's just that the way it changed is just too big to be just decentralized. It's not a simple pet peeve project anymore, and it's becoming and slowly being accepted into market as a risky asset, but still an asset overall, and that's what makes it so important. If you guys want more content like this, smash that like button.